So is
Gary will not be here.
Gary's not present, so not going to be present tonight. Good evening.
Hi.
Jonathan, tape rolling and video rolling.
Most, for some reason, the issue wasn't playing context. Now it's going to start now.
Just let me know when it will start. Good evening. I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled council meeting. It is Wednesday, August 19th, 2020, 7:02 p.m. Would you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome this evening. We'll try to move through things as quickly and efficiently as we can. First on the agenda this evening is the consent calendar. Are there any, council, is there any questions or clarifications?
Mr. Mayor, we had a number of additions to the agenda, and we should probably approve the amended agenda.
Okay, That's fine, that's
If
fine.
so, I'd move the amended agenda.
okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd move the consent agenda.
Okay, any questions about it before we
About the agenda or the consent?
consent?
Consent.
John? Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, seconded by Hoff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to C, open forum. This is a time for citizens to speak and share concerns, ask questions of the council and the city. That is not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here tonight that would like to speak? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to reports. First report this evening will be by the city administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. Actually, we had an item listed as under C1. However, Mr. Melberg asked if we could push this to September. He's working to gather some additional information, and he'd like to present that next month.
Which one?
C1,
See,
under open forum. So just want to let you know that we can skip that, and we'll move that forward. For reports tonight, I didn't give that a lot of thought. Let's see. A lot going on. There was something I was going to bring up, and I am not thinking about it right now. So I will, if I.
If it comes to you, we'll go through the other two reports, and if it comes back.
Thank you. I
say
appreciate
something
that.
and we'll-
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay.
We will go then to the city attorney. Good evening, Mr. Pearson. Any info you'd like to share at this moment in time?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. No, I have nothing to report. I do have an agenda item. I think it's coming up, but other than that, I don't have anything to report tonight.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Hallen, city engineer.
Good evening, everyone. The pre-construction conference was held at the wastewater treatment plant on August 3rd. Just another news report. Turning rubbing has started. It's been probably the major activity. We've had shop rent submittals, a lot of construction staking for control and everything has taken place. So our first moving equipment is being moved in, and that will probably start next week. So we'll have our first, monthly progress meeting is required by the PFA in September. So that, like I said, just started in its infancy. As Tom also reported that, the bridge project is started. Hazelwood Bridge is gone. Actually met up there this morning at 7. We looked at the sanitary sewer crossing that was put in 91. We had a note to the rest of the country for her because we were worried about interference. Looks like we're going to miss both projects are going to miss by about 3 inches. So that's good.
Wow,
We're not
that's
into
close.
it. Because like I told Tom and Jenny to kind of set aside 10 grand if we had to get in and try to rework the gravity line between the manholes and the force main. We did all, but that's on the grounds we did that. So that was good news, as of this morning. And also the 2020 street project, as Tom knows, is starting with, the street cleaning here taking place last week and this week. So, both those projects are now underway. With the bridge project, by the time of your next meeting, the bridge project will actually be done. So next month, you'll be seeing some payment applications.
Bridge and street, all done?
No, just the bridge. I mean, the street will go through, September, right? But the bridge is a much shorter window. And also, we have to finish the bridge before we then can finish the street over. So,
Gotcha.
So is that, what type of construction is that bridge? Is it going to be culverts?
well,
Or is-
it's
or is
a
it gonna be-
precast box culvert.
Yeah, okay,
Just like the one
yeah.
on Cullen.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
segmented together.
okay,
A little more involved because we have one retaining wall and discharge in because of that driveway to the, I don't know if the town homes, but we have that driveway that's right along the creek,
Yeah.
the rock wall is failing, so that's being replaced with a cast in place concrete wall.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Is that all?
Yeah, that's everything. Unless
Okay.
there's any other questions.
Any questions for the city engineer?
No, but I remembered what I was going to mention. So I just wanted to share with the council and those watching the meeting that our website feature now is working that will allow the public to sign up for pages on the website so that they can receive notifications via email or text. So if something is updated on a page, they'll get a notification if they sign up to do that. And so they can stay up to date on different areas, departments with the city or council activity or things like that. So we'll start to communicate that out via social media and, other ways that we can do that. But I just wanted to mention that here for those listening, that there is that function and people can sign up and manage that if they like. So
Awesome.
Yep.
That's exciting. Thank you, Jenny.
yes.
Moving on to new business, under E1, resolution declaring sufficiency to vacate right-of-way from Don DeLine and Monica Anderson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move the resolution as presented.
Second.
Quite quick. Okay. Motion is seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none.
I have a question,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind. I just wanted to check with Tom to see if he had any questions or concerns or thoughts. We have Mr. DeLine here in the audience about his application. So I just wanted to ask the question as we start this process.
No, Jenny, I don't now. You know that I've talked to Don about this previously, and so petition seems like it's okay to me, although I can talk to Don separately about this and to you, but
Okay.
we're gonna need some different, probably legal description work to support the end result on this.
Okay.
Don, the certificate of survey information that is attached to some of the stuff that you provided to me earlier was the certificate that Monica used to support her road vacation. And so it doesn't supply a legal description for what you're seeking to vacate here. I think that would probably be pretty easy to fix, but let's talk about that. Yeah, that's something that can be cured on the plan. I'll get that to you. Okay.
Thanks, Tom. Just wanted to make sure.
Anything else? All those in favor? Oh, Don? If Don, if you would please step up to the podium, the microphone, and give your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Don DeLine. I live over on Lake Hubert. I just wanted to take a second to thank your city attorney. We have been working on a project now for about 8 years, and he somehow put it together this past year. And everybody's consented, and we're ready to file it. And it's a lifelong thing. It was a long time ago. My sister died 10 years ago, and she was still living when we started getting this thing going. But it's a pleasure to work with him, and he's put it together this past year, and I appreciate it. And Jenny as well. The two of them have been very, very helpful. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you, Don. We appreciate hearing those things. Did we vote on that now? I got, no.
Not yet.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item E2, resolution accepting offer of the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority to purchase a $5,208,648 general obligation sewer revenue note of 2020, providing for its issuance and authorization of a bond purchase and a project loan agreement.
Taking out the loan for our sewer project.
Yes.
It's a long way of saying that simple statement, yes. Anyone have questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move the resolution and authorize the administrator and the mayor to sign the necessary documents.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hoff. Any discussion on the motion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next on the agenda this evening, item E3, resolution regarding CARES Act Economic Assistance Grant Program participation. Jenny, you want to speak on that? And then were you going to kind of give us some idea what you were thinking of doing? Or what the city might be thinking of doing with some of those funds if we get those?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Sure can.
go ahead, please.
So the county, in partnership with BLADEC, has established a grant program for area nonprofits and small businesses to help with providing some relief from COVID-19. I provided a sheet to the council that just highlights the program for you, just so you have that information. But what we're trying to do is work together with all cities, townships in the county and look at the funds that we've received, the CARES funds that the city of Nisswa received, which was just over $150,000, and determine what needs we have as a city, what costs we've already incurred as a result of COVID-19. Try to anticipate what we'll need to spend through the rest of the year, and then to put any measures in place that would assist us moving forward as we've adjusted for the pandemic, such as when we had to do remote council meetings and things like that, trying to make sure we have the equipment necessary to make that happen. So what I tried to do or started is to give the council an idea of some of the things we could use these funds for and come up with a general total to then determine how much we would send to the county. As what we're trying to do with the grant program is say any unused funds at the city level we'd like to send to the county, and they would work with BLADEC to administer this grant program. Our funds would stay within the Nisswa community. So those funds would be used first for any applications that came from Nisswa businesses or nonprofits. And then the county themselves has a $3 million amount of money that they've set aside based on the CARES funds they've received to also participate in the program. So I would anticipate that there would be more businesses and nonprofits in Nisswa that would apply than the funds we would have to provide them, but the county has a large sum of money to contribute to this program. So what I'm hopeful is that we could talk about some of these just proposed ideas for uses of the CARES funds, specifically, for the council as far as some of the council items. And then I would work through September to get these purchases completed and paid for, and then send any residual money to the county to participate in this program. That's the high level. Any questions on kind of just the big picture part of this? Otherwise, we can look at these line items, and I'm just looking for your feedback as I tried to think about what we might need over the next couple of years as we continue to manage the pandemic and adjusting with it.
I think you could dive in if you
Dive in, okay. So if you have it from your packet, that spreadsheet, the list that I gave. So the first item I thought of was council iPads. I know we had a little bit of logistic challenges with some people on their phones for meetings and things like that. So I was just trying to provide some consistency. Again, just an idea, but I wanted to put that option out there for the council.
Saved from a lot of paper.
Going to paperless would be an option as well for that, yep. Putting all the use an electronic way to put the packets out there for you to grab. Certainly an option. Do you want to comment after each one, or do you want me to run through the list?
Go ahead.
Keep going. So council chambers, audiovisual improvements. Jonathan and I have spent a great deal of time over the past few months working with different vendors. Tom and I have received a quote last year from a vendor as well. So we've been trying to put all this together. And basically it's going to be approximately $30,000 to improve the visual projectors, replacing the projector, high def TV, a couple things, and then our microphones and some of the speakers, improving that as well. So that is, we've worked anywhere from about 20,000 to 100,000, and this is where we landed at that point. But also to provide for efficient way to do streaming to YouTube, Zoom meetings, if we have to go back to that. Having some updated technology would be really helpful. And this would be a good opportunity to use some money that we don't have to put in our budget. So this summer we worked with the chamber to have picnic benches built, and the chamber and their members built the benches, and we put them out all over downtown. And what we'd like to do is pour some concrete pads for those, so that it's easier for us to mow around. It's more efficient. Otherwise, right now, our staff's moving the benches, mowing around them, putting them back, things like that. So we would, that's an approximate, I think we had 20 benches. This would probably get through about half of those. So we try to piece through this, but to have a more permanent structure for that would be nice.
Why are those tied to the virus funds?
We were trying to provide a more outdoor seating, dining opportunity. So if a family wanted to grab a dinner and come sit outside and not be in a restaurant, that was, the benches came about when restaurants were closed, and it was just takeout only. So we were trying to provide them another space to do that.
Well, I'm aware, because I'm on the airport commission, we've got $18 million in CARE funds to spend within a couple of years, and we have to spend it. Mm-hmm. But the problem in my mind is, just because the money is there, if you don't spend it, it goes back to the government. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Just because the money is there, I don't think we should just spend it because we can. And I look at the benches and parks registration software and some of these other things. And we got along before we had this possibility in front of us. And I'm questioning why we need to spend all this money when we didn't have to before.
How about if we hold off our conversations? Let's let Jenny get through.
Okay,
this,
whatever.
and then we can have discussion about it rather than interrupting the presentation.
So for the parks online registration, our Parks Department has been looking at incorporating a more robust online tool for that over the past couple of years. This would be the upfront cost for a software program to build out what our programs are and things like that, to have that ready to go. My bigger concern is actually not so much the startup cost for the program, but what the ongoing annual cost would be for that. Dustin, our parks intern, has been working with different vendors to get more information. So this is just a kind of an average of where we think that might land. But certainly from my perspective, we'd want to understand what the annual cost for that going forward before we would want to do something like this. So still just an option to allow people to register for programming and not have to come into City Hall to drop off a check or things like that. So from a supply perspective, masks, hand sanitizer, gloves, things like that, what I'm asking department heads to do is to order and basically stock up as much as reasonable to get us through a good portion of next year, if not all of next year, so that we have this on hand and we're equipped and ready to go. Staff technology improvements for telecommuting. Most of our staff has laptops already, some things, but we're still in need for a few other pieces of equipment. So that would be to be able to make sure that we're all mobile and ready to work from home if we need, or we can be on the go if we can't be in our office for a prolonged period of time. Conference room improvements, this is similar to the council chambers audiovisual. What I'm hoping to do is to integrate the conference room similar to the council chambers, where if we need to have a small group Zoom meeting or something like that, it's very easy and intuitive to start that up. I don't even know if it would be even $2,500, but that was at most what it would be to have those features. I've struggled through a few Zoom meeting logins and different things with our setup now. And so just the frustration with that, I think if this is going to be a thing we're going to do more and more, maybe we have a good setup for that. The police, I've actually given them the okay to spend the $600 to get webcams and microphones for their desktop computers so they can conduct their meetings and their business now. That's a small amount there. We've already spent year to date on the supplies for all of the departments. The pickle had some cost, trying to ensure that they were ready for outdoor seating for that period of time and some other things. And then we have had some unemployment costs this year. So we have spent $22,500 this year. That was by far the biggest chunk. I don't know that we've spent really anything much since then. But that is what we spent year to date. So as you can see, yes, that totals $83,000. It takes about half that money. So it's certainly a large chunk to think about how we want to spend the funds. But this was the short list I came up with, and certainly would appreciate some feedback on what you'd like to do.
Well, a question that I would have, Jenny, is not being part of the making up of this list, the thinking that went into it. And my first question is, what other things could some money be used for if we so desired outside of what's on this list? I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into that right at the moment.
Sure.
But my question would just be, what things could fall under this? And if we are going to do something, use some funds, make sure that we do the best job that we can in how we use whatever dollars we use. And along with what Councilman Jacobson had said, yeah, if we don't need to spend the money, I think, and it looks like right now that's not the intent of the city, is to find a way to spend every dime. I think that's good. I think that's good business practice.
Yeah.
And good management of tax dollars. So
I can speak to that a little bit as far as what we can use the funds for really is anything that has impacted the city from a COVID-19 perspective that has, we've incurred costs. We anticipate costs that we're not budgeted for, things like that. If we have to adjust staffing in any way, let's just say probably in larger communities, perhaps even they had to bring someone on full time to just deal with COVID-19 and how to work through that. Those costs would be eligible. We don't have any staff that's really dedicated to doing that. So I didn't apply any of that here. But it's really along those lines. So what are those things that we need to continue to deliver services in a different way that would impact us potentially?
sure.
Yep.
Okay.
I've got, is there somehow we could work to reclaim the pig or the spirits raises over March to May or whatever we had there? Is that eligible for that? Or work our recycling dollars into this?
Yeah, I mean, good question. And I think, Jenny, just understand, I don't think any of us, we're not asking you to give us an answer. It's just
No, sharing ideas. Yep.
to maybe check out.
Whatever the hazard pay increase was from March to April or May or whatever it was.
That's actually that was a direct
Right.
impact. Or that was directly
And then
done
we have
because of.
additional recycling pressure. While everybody came up here to flee the big city and work remotely up here.
Plus, if we get a second wave of CARES funding and we see the growth with that, maybe that's the, the time to say, hey, we've got to have a bigger system.
Right.
There you go.
There you go. So, I think a little bit what you're hearing here is let's take a look, let's make sure that we take a look at all areas and possibilities, and then maybe have more discussion.
So what I would say to that is, I am looking to know from the council if you are willing to participate in the grant program, so I can let the county know. I mean, I don't have to tell them a dollar amount. I just need to tell them if we're willing to send any remaining funds to the county.
I'm not against applying for and getting funds for expenses that we had related to the virus. That's not the problem. Problem is, anything that we do, we have to certify that it is a result of, or we can foresee it will be a result of the virus. We have to justify that. When I look at concrete pads for benches, registration software, I think that's kind of on the margin. I would rather see stuff that we can really nail down and say this is a result of, and we're correcting it. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, and I would just say those benches wouldn't be here if we didn't have the situation we did. That further bit, the software, I get that.
Yeah.
Some of this is,
I think we would have ended up eventually with picnic benches to be, at some point, if they were willing to make them and put them out there just as a amenity. I agree with Don on that, but for example, iPads, chamber improvements, the council chambers and conference room improvements. I don't know about the rest of you, but my computer at home didn't like hooking up to anything, and I still don't know why. So having the ability to do that, if we it could have been the user error too. But having, I can see where that would, because we don't know we don't know what's going to happen. That's the problem. We don't know what the government's going to do in the future. So I understand that. But I think the grant program, as long as the money is going to stay in Nisswa, would be a good way for area businesses and people that were hurt to apply for something. And I'd like to get to know a little more about what their criterias are going to be for grants.
Just a technical question, Jenny, this has to be submitted in September. If something comes in after that submission date, is there a possibility of getting it in, or do they say that that's the deadline period
so you said the deadline in September for what?
to agree to this and send the paperwork in and everything? There's a deadline here for September.
12/1, isn't it?
Where did I see
Did
it? I saw there was a deadline of getting the list and everything in.
Well, here under application requirements, it says the CARES Act coronavirus relief funds application must be completed in its entirety by applicant and submitted via the apply here link below no later than September 18th, 2020.
Right, so the question is, if we identified something after that date, is that off the boards or not?
That's the challenge with, and we really do have a tight time frame as far as if Nisswa, if we were just to keep all of the funds we received and just kind of work through our own process, we would have to have the money spent by November 15th, according to the federal guidance, regardless. So that's even not a long period of time to work through a lot of conversations and discuss some of these things. But then even so, when you add this layer of the grant program, the grant program is open and available for applications through the mid-September. So ideally, in my mind, I'd like to have some direction so I know what I can spend money on now over the next month and get that done. And then send the rest to the county so they know how much money they're working with.
So to make sure you have the money, you spend it now before the September deadline. to make
Yes,
sure.
yes,
Okay.
yep.
And most of that stuff, at least what the business pieces of it that have been out there, the deadline is the deadline.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cut off, anything after that date in the business realm was
It-
dead. So,
But isn't it, am I not reading this right, that we just have to say that we're participating by September 18th and then use whatever, submit whatever we've done up through November 15th as a,
well, I think, so a question I have for the council is how, at this moment in time, how deep into the weeds do we want to get? I think right now Jenny's asking if we have interest in
yeah.
going forward with this. And maybe some of these other questions we could either talk with Jenny individually about, or have a special meeting, or figure out a way to deal with that.
Well, you wanted to know if it said resolution on CARES Act and it was asking for action or motion. So tonight, understanding what the mayor is saying, I think that the items that the staff needs for sure should be taken care of, especially the personal protective equipment, the PPEs. I think it's a must. The webcams and the microphones for the computers for the police it's already done. The pickle, 22,000, and this for supplies, unemployment, et cetera. I'm interested in hearing if we can include what Mike said about recouping the costs for the increase, for
Sure.
hazard pay, or that would be a great thing to do as well. Council chambers, AV improvements, honestly, we've needed it for a long time. And if more and more people are going to be, because of this, are going to be checking in online to listen to the council meeting, that's okay, that's good, more people. But we're trying to keep our budget down too, so that would be an okay thing. iPads, I don't know how everybody else feels about that stuff. I mean, I get mine electronically already and read it on my computer, and so, but
And I should say, let's just, as an example, because the big item is the AV improvements for the council chambers. I would bring back the full proposal to the council in September to go through that.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for more, yes, we'd like to proceed with that, or no, we don't want to do it. So just want to make sure that's clear.
I'll move
To proceed.
to participate in the CARES Act Economic Assistance Grant Program.
Okay, just to confirm that
Second,
we'll do that. Okay.
Second by Jacobson.
just in discussion. Just so I think we should have Jenny check to make sure that there isn't a hard deadline, that we have to have something bought and paid for by the deadline, or we lose it. That's all.
Well, that's November 15th,
Yeah.
but we're not going to participate in the county program if we wait that long. So we need to notify them so they
Right.
know what we're doing with our money. So if that helps.
Any other questions?
when do they need to know how much is left over that they get to use? Do they have a deadline or just?
I don't believe
other
they
than
do,
September?
but I would
Okay.
say if we think we
This-
can iron this out in September, that would be
Okay. that's what
ideal
I
for them.
figured.
That gives them still 2 months to get everything worked out.
Okay.
Okay. Can I bring forward the council chambers improvements proposal next month?
Please.
Okay. iPads, how do we feel about that?
For council?
Bring it forward. We don't have to accept it.
I mean, we did have that discussion I
Sure.
think, before you were here, Mike. And we could again. I think Jenny had figured out it was like $78 or $178 a year in paper. It was a really small amount.
The paper cost wasn't
Yeah,
as much,
paper
it's
cost.
more, yeah. So, okay,
But I mean, I'm not opposed to it necessarily.
Okay.
Just bring up that there had been past discussion about it.
okay.
So whatever if we want to connect with you individually about
Sure.
things, we'll do that. Otherwise, I would say bring forward what you want to bring forward, what you feel is needed and important.
I can do that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item E4, policy and procedure for sale of bulk materials and water. Evening, Tom.
Good evening. What this is we needed a policy primarily to deal with contractors coming in and getting water for boring. One of my guys goes over to the fire hall and fills up one of their trucks. And usually it's one here and it's one there and it's not a big deal. But this summer we found that we've had contractors coming with 6, 7 trucks at a time. They're using a significant amount of water. It's taking up a significant amount of our time, and we've always left it as a, please make a free will donation to the fire department. Well, come to find out, none of them are making a free will donation to the fire department. So at least with this, we'll collect a little something to pay for the time I have to send somebody up to administer that. It also allows for other materials that we have, like out at our pit, we end up with wood chips and stuff that we need to get rid of. We'd like to make it available, but I need to get something for the time spent to have somebody go out there with a loader and put it in their truck. So it just allows a way for us to do that consistently for anybody that wants it. At the time I wrote this, with the sewer project, we were anticipating that we might be getting a very large amount of wood chips that we might never get rid of. It was that big of a pile. Well, since then, the process that they use for that has changed. So that's probably not as necessary as it once was. But the bulk water for sure is something we would like to deal with. And I think this policy covers those items.
So a question in the calculations for cost, if a contractor was to purchase water, whatever, and they wanted it billed to them, which probably some would, if not all, is there some time calculated in there for somebody like the city clerk or, accounting to do the billing time? I mean, not looking to, get too nitpicky, but just kind of make sure there's going to be a little time there. Do we just try to make sure that we maybe have a little something in there for kind of cover costs?
The way I tried to set it up, I looked at what other communities around us are doing for this kind of thing too.
Okay.
And where we differ is for most of them, they have a city water system and they have a meter. So they just meter the water in a lot of cases. But there was a couple instances where they sold it like this and we're slightly higher than some of them. Mostly because I don't have any way to meter it. And the other thing I was trying to do is deter some of the larger contractors from taking advantage of us. So it would get kind of expensive if you're coming in for many truckloads. But for an average person who just needs one truckload or here or there, pickup load, it's very economical.
Sure. Okay.
And it just gives us a little bit of revenue. In the past, we weren't getting anything and still having to do this work. So now at least we're recovering some of our costs.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's all of it by any
Sure.
means,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Question, Tom, would this be available to any citizen
Yes.
of the city?
Yep.
If I have a swimming pool, takes 18,000 gallons of water, I can come and get 18,000 gallons of water?
As long as you have a way of transporting it.
Okay, I'm just wondering, the same with wood chips. If I've got a big enough trailer, I can come get wood chips from you instead of going to the nursery then?
Well, you can now understand this. These are not clean, colorized,
Right.
the nice ones you get from the nursery. These are leaves, dirt, cell phones. If one of the guys dropped them,
Okay,
whatever.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just for contractors. Just anybody who wanted to pay the
Nope.
price, they come get it. Okay.
We've had people come in and want small amounts of salt sand, for instance, and we've never had a policy that allowed me to sell them a wheelbarrow of salt sand. So,
Do you have a fee schedule set up already?
yeah, it's
Is it in
coming
there?
up.
The next item.
Oh, gotcha.
Council, it's a motion.
I'll make them to allow for the sale of bulk materials and water, to adopt a policy and procedure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, questions?
Should we say not adopting the policy, but it's a fee schedule actually, right?
It's,
So that's
it's
the
both.
next thing.
That will be next. This is, that we would have a policy.
Okay.
You just want to skip right to the good part. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And then item E5 is a resolution amending city fee schedule to account for these items. Do you want to say anything about that, Tom, or?
I
necessarily?
can real quick, but basically, I alluded to, it was to discourage large users from taking advantage of it. So for every truck that they come and get, there's gonna be a $20 fee. And then the material itself, $5 for 1,000 gallons of water. That was right in line with other communities, what they sell about that same amount for. Waste materials, wood chips, that kind of thing. It's $5 per pickup load or a tandem axle trailer. So that's a small trailer. If they're dealing with semis or something larger, well, then we would adjust the fees accordingly to make it worth our while at that point.
So a question that I have just regarding how other communities do it. If they have a metered system, or is a contractor able to just go there and get water themselves, or do they need to have a city person there? Because I'm looking at this, I'm going, somebody get 1,000 gallons of water for $5. I'm not going, whatever that, but if we take a city employee and it takes them a half hour, or 40 minutes, or 45 minutes, or an hour, $5 doesn't even make a dent in that cost. And so that's what I'm just trying to understand is, do other communities, do they have somebody have to go help them? Or
No.
do they just?
If you have a city water system, what they do is they have a meter set up that they'll come and set up at whatever point you're using it. And you can come and go all you want. They just do a meter reading when you start, a meter reading when you're done, and they issue a bill at the end.
Okay.
We don't have that. We have to go to the fire department
Right.
to get
Because
it.
somebody's got to let them in
So
and
then we need to have somebody there. 'cause
possibly
we don't
move a
want-
truck out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my point, yeah.
But-
So I'm kind of, when I look at that, I go.
Plus the $20. I mean,
So
at
it's-
least there's,
So it's 25 bucks for 1,000 gallons, basically, the first 1,000.
Sure.
In most
But-
cases, Fred, it doesn't occur very often. Like, say if you wanted a truckload of water because you're pouring concrete or something, you're going to come and get one truck and I won't see you again, if ever, probably for 5 years. But if you're, say, one of these boring companies out here, they could come in 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
that's,
just been more of a problem lately
yeah.
for us.
Well, that's why I kind of just bring up the cost thing. Is that the best way for the city of Nisswa to go about it? I mean, I certainly think a policy is a good idea and so on, but
You could add to the language if you like,
Yeah, I'm wide open to it. I just go, if we're looking to cover costs or some costs in those instances, I'm not sure that we're really accomplishing that, because,
How long does it take?
but I'm sorry, Mike, but I'm just gonna say, if we're all okay with that, that's fine. I'm just kind of asking the question.
If they come for, say, a single truckload of water, it takes us maybe 20 minutes, said and done.
That's how many gallons approximately?
About 1,500 gallons is probably a typical amount. Maybe some might be more like 3,000. Some might even be as little as 500, but it's right in there.
So that's about $25 or $30
Right.
for a truckload.
And all I did is I took what looked like other communities were charging for about that amount of water. And that is what that $5 is. And then I added the $20 per truckload. It was just an arbitrary
Is it per
amount.
truckload or just the first truck?
20 per truck.
So per truck, okay. I was wrong. I read that wrong
makes-
then. Okay.
The way I thought I understood it was just the first truck.
No.
It's per truck.
Oh, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, because the one day Mike Dick, I think, filled 8 trucks in a row.
Sure.
That would have been $160 plus whatever money for the gallons.
Okay, that clarifies that for me. Council, thoughts, motion?
Did we have a motion already?
Go for it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution amending the city fee schedule as presented.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Hoff. Any questions on that motion?
I would just ask, if we find that we need to up the dollar amount because we're getting abused, we can always do it, right?
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
why the fee schedule was separate
So
from the policy, so it was
Okay.
easier to amend. The other thing to know too is because we weren't charging anything, a lot of times when they could have gotten water at, say, Pequot Lakes, they weren't going there because they knew we didn't charge anything.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, item E6, recommendation from Public Works Committee regarding Hazelwood Drive sewer connection. Do you want to say anything about that, Tom?
I wrote a memo that you all should have gotten a copy of, and basically this just took the discussions that we had at Public Works and I summarized that into a memo so you could see the key points that we talked about. As you know, with the 2020 road projects, the reconstruction of Hazelwood Avenue, we installed a sewer main in the south end. And so we had to allow for some way for those property owners to connect. Not all of them could afford to connect immediately and pay all the fees right away. So we allowed for 1 to 5 year period that they could hook up anywhere in that 5 year period. And we allowed them up to 5 years to pay. Now those terms are fluid. You can change them. This is just a suggestion as a starting point for discussion. So.
Mr. Mayor, I talked to a couple property owners down there that got in touch with me, and at the meeting, one of the things that we should have brought up, we had discussed this at prior meetings at the Public Works Committee, and the general consensus or the general idea at that time was that, when their septic system failed, they could hook up. If they applied for a permit, say they were going to increase the size of their building so their usage would go up. Yeah, if you're, like coming into P&Z and you're looking for permits and stuff, typically you have to get your septic assessed or anyway, and things of that nature. And if you sold the property, you would typically hook up. But that was what we were looking at. And during the discussion at the Public Works meeting, this last one, I didn't bring that up again. And so what some of the people would like to do, and what I think we should do with as far as the hookup goes, every one of these people that are going to hook up on the new section have to put in a step station. So it's not just a $10,000 fee and then an excavator to plug the two ends together. They have to put in a step station, which increases the cost exponentially. I mean, it gets to the point where it's up to $25,000. And as one of the entities is a nonprofit, and like they sent the letter that we should all have outlining what that does to them. And so I would like to change the 5 years to include, where was it? Well, basically, I think we should amend it to say that when their system fails or falls out of compliance, would probably be a better way to say it, when they sell the property, or if there are any significant changes to the property through building. I mean, I think they should have to hook up at that time. There was also a request by Sean Hanson, trying to find it where I had it. I put it somewhere. Oh, okay, here it is. That because they're a nonprofit, they would like to see if the city would waive the $10,000 connection fee. The problem with that is we still incur all the expenses, and I don't think we can. I think that would be, I mean, if we're gonna do that, I could put forth a really good reason why I need to have my fee waived too. But I don't think that that's something we can afford to do because of, you know, everything. So, but if we can give them that time to put together the resources to do that, you know, they may be eligible for certain grants and things that different people can do different things. That's what I'd like to see changed on our proposal from the Public Works. And I know Mark Uttenzer is here from Public Works. We discussed this too. I just didn't bring that back up again. We had talked about it, Mike, at a previous meeting, doing it that way. Mike wasn't at the last meeting. There was a conflict, so otherwise he would have reminded me. Sorry, my bad. My memory failed. So,
So you're thinking, if I'm looking at. this,
Number one.
Number one, that instead of property owners will be required to connect within 5 years of completion of the main sewer, that they would not be required to connect until one of the like 3 things that you've mentioned.
correct.
Right.
Okay.
Fall out of compliance, sale, or increase size.
Yeah.
So then, because I didn't quite make the connection with that first sentence and the second sentence says a term that matches the length of the bond the city is using to build the road. Is that 5 years or?
We have 5 years remaining on our bond, so that
So that's how that time.
was the connection there. Yep.
Okay.
And I believe when the initial sewer was built in the city, people were given the same, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, because we just went through all that. We're given the same time frame to connect to the sewer at that time was the length of the bond for the,
Yeah, it was
For the
20
pay
years.
for
It
it.
was the PFA loan that they received at that time.
right. So it was kind of falling in line with that too, that we gave people the length of time of the funding, basically. So that's kind of how the 5 years came up. And
So if we were to, if somebody was to make a motion and request that change, would, I lost my train of thought on that. Would we,
Amend number 1.
no, not, we would do that. Oh, would the fee, let's say they, 10 years from now, they're going to sell the property or they fall out of compliance. Would they pay the $10,000 or would they pay what the new fee is at that date and time? I think that should be clarified.
I think I have a
Or
line in
is it-
here.
What's that?
I think there was a line on the memo that said that they connect at the fee at the time of the connection. So
Yeah, it says the property owner is referring to connect the sewer system. At this time, will pay the connection fee in effect when they do connect. In 2020, the fee is
Yeah.
$10,000.
Okay.
number
Yep.
5.
Yep. Okay. Answers
So
that.
not requiring at any specific time gives them flexibility. The flip side is just that as all costs do, you know, things get more expensive over time. So
And that's
likely
why-
the connection
that's
fee
why
will be
I'm
more
asking.
expensive in the future.
Yep.
But it just allows them to plan and connect when it makes sense for them to do that.
Sure.
Mr.
The question, I'm sorry, Don, the question I had for Jenny earlier, and she was going to get back to me, maybe Tom can answer it now for us. Oh, the question was about, as things go down years and the years pass, things tend to get forgotten. So is there a way that, say, a septic system could last for 15 years? Is there a way to put something on the title of the property, record it with the county? When we're, okay. That alerts any potential buyers or sellers or real estate when they're going to get ready to want to sell the property that, hey, you have this thing here, you know, you got to hook up the sewer, the new buyer does or whatever. Is there a way, just like you would put a lien on property and you'd record it, is there any way that we can do that with something like this? Or does the city just have to keep their eyes open? Is there a way to record
No, probably not.
the requirement?
Probably pursuant to a typical purchase agreement, you must get inquiries all the time about things like special assessments and.
We do. So we would just have to have notes in our property files,
Yes,
Okay.
really good notes to alert us to this property is in this
right.
area and this would be the requirement.
Can you record, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I don't know
That
how.
would probably be the way to catch it, would be to
Okay.
a purchase agreement
All right.
inquiry about outstanding assessments, pending assessments, that kind of thing. I know this is not that, but
Just that potentially everybody here could be gone and retired when it happens. And nobody remembers.
Do we have the ability just to put a pending assessment upon sale in the system?
We're transitioning to electronic filing, so we can definitely make notes in those folders. And then I would just also put a note on the inside cover of the property file that would alert us to that as well. So we kind of take both approaches.
Gotcha. So I would make the motion that we accept the Public Works memo, with the exception that number 1 be amended to, instead of 5 years, it would be the failure or the system falling out of compliance or current septic system falling out of compliance, sale of the property, or if they apply for a building permit that will require them to upgrade their septic or sewer.
I'll second that.
Mr. Mayor, put on my legal hat. I thought that the memo was okay with the changes that you've outlined here, no problem. But we just went through a city fee schedule for a sale of bulk materials, and that was a fee schedule. I checked with my compatriot over here on my right and said, is this in the right form? And he indicated he thought it should actually be an ordinance instead of just accepting a memo. And I would suggest that we direct staff to put it in the correct form of an ordinance and pass it at our next meeting so that's properly done. That's all.
With
Fair
those
enough.
with those changes.
With the changes, yeah.
do we have this published somewhere or
This, no.
no?
All this was, we didn't have a policy or anything up 2 weeks ago as far as how we were going to connect individuals. It was a discussion. There's no urgency with this. The line's being installed as we speak.
Right.
And we expect that to be done within about a month.
Okay.
So ideally, coming into September, we'd like to have something ready to go that we could pass that would give those property owners a way to connect and tell them what it's going to cost.
So do you want me to rescind my motion and then we can table it till September pending proper formatting?
Jenny says no.
No, I appreciate the direction. That's really helpful. So we know, and to be fair to the property owners on Hazelwood, they'd like to know what the city wants to do. So we can relay this to them. We'll formalize it in September
Right.
In
as the ordinance
Yeah.
and get that done.
Okay, so pass it as it,
Yeah, you pass, you're approving the concept here now, Jenny will,
Yes.
I will put wheels on it.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
all
I think
those
the
in
way to
favor-
look at this
go ahead,
memo
Tom.
was it was just setting the terms. You know, the committee had some ideas for terms, and did the council have any,
Concept.
is it okay? Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move the next item, recommend to move Jonathan Stainbook from probationary to permanent status.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? I believe that the outreach program,
Oh,
Would
it's a
like-
separate item.
the council to decide if you'd like to waive the connection fee or not.
Do we need it as a motion? Do you want it as
Waive the connection fee
For
for,
what?
the sewer?
For the sewer?
Do we want it as a motion or what do we want to do?
I think so, yes.
If we
Tom
waive
Sauter.
it for them, there's a church on the same road that we'd have
They're already
to,
connected.
well,
to sewer.
but it's same point.
Same point, yeah.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we do not waive the sewer connection fee for the outreach program.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Jacobson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. So just as a matter of protocol, it'd be appreciated if we waited until we read what the next item is before we jump right in. I know you're anxious to get home, Don. I know
No,
all
I'm
that
not
stuff,
anxious to get home. I just,
So next, be ready though, be ready.
I'll-
Item E7, personnel updates. recommendation to move Jonathan Stainbrook from probationary to permanent status. Go.
I'll move that.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ryan. Any questions on that?
Are we
motion?
sure?
I brought the one that's in at least once.
All right.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get any, but
We'll send a text next time so everyone can stop by.
Hearing only one question, we will call a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Oh, wait. Oh, is there a second? I'm just kidding.
And I'm very grateful to have Jonathan here. He's
Yes.
been a great addition, so
Yes.
I'm glad you're here.
I
Yep.
fully agree.
We also have to approve the personnel update.
I can kind of consider that all in one, if that's okay, but you can.
Is there, well then, is there any updates on the Parks and Rec and or maintenance?
I can,
Oh, maintenance tech
so
is there
the
right there.
maintenance tech hire was
Yep.
included in the personnel updates. So Craig O'Reilly will be joining our team, I think next week, looks like. Wonderful. So we are excited about that. And then I'll wait for the next item to be introduced.
Okay.
E8, I think.
E8, recommendation to hire temporary employee for Parks Department. Jenny?
With the departure of our Parks Director, Matthew Hill, we're fortunate to have Dustin as our intern right now with the Parks Department. And what I'd like to do is continue to have him with us through the hiring process for the Parks Director. Dustin's internship ends that we have partnered with Sourcewell on this Friday, the 21st. But we won't have somebody, interviews will be taking place next week. And so there will still be some time between now and when we will onboard a new Parks Director. And Dustin's been a great help for me, especially keeping some things going with the Parks Department, and will help with the next Parks Commission agenda, and just he's been a great addition. So I'd like to keep him on temporarily until we have a better plan for what that timing is for the new director.
How does Dustin pronounce his last name?
Spone,
Spone.
yes.
Council? Questions for the administrator or entertain the motion?
How long is the employment for? Is it just summer or into the fall or what?
Until Parks Director is hired.
Yeah, I say approximately 4 weeks,
Oh,
probably about a
okay.
month.
I'll make a motion to hire temporary employee for Parks Department.
I'll second that.
Discussion on that motion?
What if it goes further than 4 weeks? Do we want to just leave that open-ended at this time, or do we, I mean,
It says approximately.
Okay.
Well, I can bring an update back in September as well. If something drastically,
good with
hopefully
approximately,
plus or
that's
minus a
fine.
little bit, you're okay with that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if something drastic changes, you can come back to us and say.
Yes, extend it or
Extend it.
something like that.
Exactly. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion does carry. Item E9, accept quote for codification of the Nisswa City Code. Actually was, looking at that, it was, I was actually surprised that it wasn't, and pleased that it wasn't more than what it was. I think sometimes those things can be, not that it's absolutely inexpensive, but sometimes that gets far more expensive.
It certainly can be. Appreciate that Muni Code just honored the pricing that they quoted me last year, so there wasn't any increase there, which was nice as well. I didn't mention exactly how we were going to pay for that, so let me speak to that a little bit. We
I
have.
thought that was coming out of Jonathan's.
Right.
Because it wouldn't be on his plate.
Would you
so.
be willing to waive him purchasing donuts occasionally for that?
But we have some remaining funds from our accounting expenditure line item from our audit. We didn't spend all of those funds there. And we actually have some additional funds. We budget training funds for our council that usually is spent if there's a conference or two throughout the year that council attends, but with COVID and everything, that has been pretty much eliminated. So between those two accounts, I can pay for this and we can absorb it in this year's budget.
Will this allow the entire code to go on the website so it's accessible to people? And will it be by chapter code numbers, or is it?
Yes. So what will happen is we'll actually have a link on our website that will bring it to their website that they will house our code. And the search function is quite substantial. So you can search by keyword, you can look by chapter. I mean, it's very user friendly. I worked with this company when I was in Cross Lake and we did a recodification there. So I'm very familiar with how that works. And their staff and their attorneys they do an excellent job. They're very good at what they do. And so I think this would be a great addition for us. And fortunately for staff, they're going to take this for our code for a while and do what they do with it and bring it back in 3 or 4 months, which will be a quieter time for staff to work through some of those changes and modifications. And then we spent some time with the council going through those changes as well. So I know Brittany from Planning and Zoning would appreciate this consideration as well, that there's some ambiguity in our code for some zoning language, and that could help her out as well.
Quick question.
Yes, please.
When I looked at this, I looked at what they want to charge, $9,260. But then when I go back to pages 21, 22, 23, and even 24, there's lots of other fees that aren't in the 9,000 quote. A lot of the things that you probably want done, there's a yearly fee, there's a software fee, yearly update. And there's other things that is going to boost this price considerably higher than what they're quoting. And I was just wondering, have you looked at that and have any idea on what extra costs are going to be over and above what they quoted us?
So I did try to summarize what I believed we would use, because there's a lot of options, add-ons, those kinds of
Right.
things. So the base costs, and then creating an index, the gender neutralization of the code. And then there's an annual web hosting fee of $395. They have an option that would allow staff to do the updating of the code, and we would take that and do it ourselves internally. That's one, more expensive, and two, it would take more staff time. So I would prefer to just have them update our code when we need it, because we don't have that many ordinance amendments. So maybe it's once or twice a year to do it. I will go through all of that with them again to make sure I'm on the right track, but I believe I've pinpointed the costs we would incur.
You indicated that you go onto our website and you'd have a link to theirs.
Yes.
Well, they have to host theirs and there's an extra cost for that. There's a yearly cost for that. But I just bring it up because it's just not $9,200. It's more than that. And I just wanted to get a better handle
Yep.
on what those extra costs were and what we're going to use. That's all.
Good question. Good question. I think, I remember some years back, we went through codification updates and it was a big deal. And it was, I think at that time, council learned it was really messy. Just in the trying to pull all the pieces together so that everything tied together accurately and simply. And something that another piece along with the complexity of it, which obviously I think the city made good progress back then with it, but is that it is an ongoing, evolving document. And either in a sense you pay yearly to keep it up, or you endure the large lump sums every so many years to do it. It certainly could be done either way, but I think it'd be worth, myself, I think it'd be worth giving it the effort to have them do this for us, because and then for the next year or two or three, and then take a look at it again and see if we are satisfied or if think we're spending too much for what we're getting, or we just don't need it as often, whatever. But it's a complicated, it's very complicated. And I don't know that, I know we have great staff, but I don't know that we quite have the expertise to want to really tackle that. It's a spider's net, a spider's web. Yeah.
Does it cost anything if we do add an ordinance or anything like that for them to include it into the code, like per time or?
It does typically what, in my experience, what we've done is there's a place to make a notation that we've had, 2 ordinance amendments, one in February, one in June, and then in December every year, they do one-time swoop of making the change. So it's more efficient that way and it costs less money, but it's probably a couple $100 at most per ordinance amendment, unless it's a really complicated one. So, you're probably spending $1,000 a year potentially in ordinance amendments, but to have it correct in all the right places of the code. And they will also include a history, which is great, of the ordinances per section. So you can see when things have been amended, which can be really helpful as well. So there are some costs, but we try to keep it as streamlined as possible.
Gotcha. Can we vote? Have we made a motion yet?
I got lost in it, being totally honest.
I don't think we have.
No.
No motion yet.
I'll make a
Motion,
motion to
please.
accept the code for codification of the Nisswa City Code.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilman Ryan. Questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Item E10, approve request regarding city personnel policy. Do you want to speak on that, Jenny? or-
Yes, I know, I certainly can.
So I'll give you the option.
So I would, similar to the city code, it's been a few years since our personnel policy has been updated. I did have a handful of conversations with our previous labor attorney about the need to add standard language, I'll call it standard language for different policies and things that are federal law or state law, that we should have a more complete code. I hadn't gotten that far along with Abrams and Schmidt. And so I reached out to our new labor attorney, Kennedy and Graven, and an approximate cost would not exceed $2,580 to do an update. I think there's an opportunity there to improve, kind of clarify some of the language, and just look at that and make it a little more user-friendly for our staff. And so this I would propose, similar to not having used any of the council training budget money for the code. My clerk training budget has hardly been used this year, so I would use the funds out of that to pay for this update.
Okay, thank you. Council, questions? Motion?
I'd move the updated personnel policy for Kennedy and Graven on a figure not to exceed 2580.
I'll second that.
Any questions on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda this evening is E11, a recommendation from Parks Commission regarding a Toro MDX purchase. So I don't know if you had much you were going to say about that, Jenny. I asked about this. Probably using this as an example, I personally struggle a little bit with things like this when they come to us, because I don't know if Parks and Rec really needs it. I don't know. My question about it is, my question to Jenny is, who's who's vetting this? I mean, who's actually taking a hard look at what we have, what equipment, I mean, what's wrong with the equipment we have today? I'm not saying there isn't something wrong, but things like this come to us. In the notes we have, it says that it was stated that there's money in the budget for it. To me, that's not necessarily a good reason to spend the money just because the money's there. So my question was, well, what's the vetting process to how do we come to how does the council know whether this is really good money spent or not? And it's more of I'm using this as an example, as much as anything, you know, what's our city's vetting process, and how do we know as a council that we are, that it's wise for us to approve this or this sort of thing or not? So that's my question. You know, if Terry Hansen was here or something, it would, you know, or somebody who could really get into the nuts and bolts of it would be helpful.
And typically, we would have a department here to speak to this.
Yeah.
We just don't have that. And I don't know enough of the details. So it's a fair question, certainly. And didn't think to ask Terry to attend tonight. He probably could help us with that.
So a question I would ask is this the sort of thing that we could table, or is there some sort of a timeline, deadline for buying something and getting some special pricing, or is it just happened to come up this month, and if we tabled it for a month to learn more about it?
So the quote on it says dated 7/15, pricing's valid for 45 days. We've got another 10 days,
I believe.
11 days.
I believe they're going off the state bid, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know what it is without looking at it in front of me, but depending on what it is on the state bid, there are deadlines. The vendors will only participate with state bid pricing to a certain date of the year, like September 1st, and then the new models are rolling, that kind of stuff. So I don't know, but again, I don't know. I do know that the MDX, the Toro MDX, is an excellent piece of equipment. It's multi-purpose in that respect. It can be used for snow removal. It can be used for grass cutting. It can be used for a number of different things. So it's a year-round machine versus having a sweeper and a snow blower and a lawnmower, that kind of thing. But they're really nice. They're a time saver in that respect. But to your question, was this discussed at the Parks and Rec or the Parks Board? Okay.
You know, and I asked,
Are they?
I brought this up to Jenny, and you know, my thought about that is my thought was along the line of park director said there's money in the budget, and the park commission, not knowing any discussion that they had, and not being in our position for setting a budget every year and monitoring what's being spent and what the needs are, and is this a high enough priority need or not, made a decision to say, oh, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing, I don't know what they said, but they were like, oh, well, we got the money. I mean, I don't know, they go, oh, we got the money, so let's just do it, or, you know, I don't know any history, and that's why I questioned the vetting process. How do we as a city go about doing this in a way that when it comes to council, we are confident in what is before us? And is this a bigger priority than something else as we're looking at budget?
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but the other thing is that if we budgeted for this last summer, that was part of the budget when we finalized it in December. We're in the middle of budget discussions for it this year right now. If we just I'm just being devil's advocate. If we don't do it, that's probably putting it out till 2022 budget, until a Parks Director gets in here and says that they need, or they'd like something like this again. So that's another side to look at it. So,
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Was there anything in the minutes from the park commission meeting that stipulated why, other than it's in the budget, so it's not gonna, the money's already been allocated, but other than that, is there a reason why they wanted to move forward now?
Well, I'm guessing in part because with Matthew leaving, he was trying to wrap up as many things as possible. And I know he had been working on this for a few months. I don't know if this had been the topic of several discussions at the Parks Commission meetings, if they had 3 discussions on it separately, and this was here's the final information. Do you want to move forward? I don't know without looking at the minutes.
Again, just because there's a lot of information that we as a council don't get. Was there money allocated specifically in the Park and Rec budget for this piece of equipment, or was there just money in the budget?
There was money budgeted for equipment. Based on this, I believe that Matthew's intention was to purchase this piece of equipment. But I haven't looked at his information to see what he has in his files, but that's my understanding. But yes, there was money budgeted for equipment, and this is what they wanted to. Yep,
So was there
purchase.
intention to replace equipment this year?
Yes.
Well, I'll throw it out there then. I'll make a motion to recommend purchase of the Toro MDX for the Parks Department based on the budgeted approval or the quote, yeah. You guys can second it if you want.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 There would be,
I don't know how I feel about it, but. So I'm going to abstain. Not that I'm opposed to it, I just don't have enough knowledge to make a good decision.
I do know that Terry has a riding mower, but I don't know if that riding mower is what he uses to blow the,
Plow snow.
or to blow off like the ice rink,
Yeah, I mean,
where a broom works better, but I agree, it would be nice to have more info.
yeah, and so maybe we can, I just, my point in
Future.
what I kind of brought up to this city administrator is we as a elected body this is not our full-time job. So we aren't sitting in on every single meeting and knowing exactly what's going on and then the reasoning behind things that we're doing or I should say that are coming to us. So I think it's important to have somebody that can represent what it is that we're looking to, that we're being requested to spend money on. And so that we are really aware of what we're doing. And, and maybe they, when there's equipment purchases, maybe they make a little bit of a presentation ahead of time saying, this is an issue that we have. This is a concern that we have. This is how we think we can better be more efficient with our equipment by doing this and lay out some reasoning so that we have an understanding. Otherwise, we're just rubber stamping things.
Sure.
And, as the group that's responsible for the monies that get spent within our city, I think it's important that we understand this. And, like I said, we can't be everywhere doing everything. That's not what we're here to do. So having, so being presented with really good information is important. So we can make good decisions. And this.
And I agree.
And I know you don't disagree.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there because we as the council are responsible for these things. And I think if we're going to make good decisions for the city, we need to have good information.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of an oddity. With the park rec director getting a new job and so on. But I would really like to see us as a city work hard to educate.
Certainly.
Understand.
Sure. Unfortunately, my liaison is also not here either, so they could have leaned on him a little bit too. So it was just kind of one of those.
Just left hanging on the hanger tonight.
Yeah. Yep. So
And I think Jenny, you know me well enough. I'm not directing this, pointing it at you. It's discussion about how do we do things as good as we can. And I know that's your goal. So thank you for that. Next item on the agenda tonight, item E12, letter to Crow Wing County regarding recycling center. I like your letter. I think it's really good. It would be nice. Myself, I'm really feeling like the county could be doing a better job for all of its constituents out there with maybe having taken more time instead of just throwing out this deadline and surprising everybody, I think. And instead of taking a year or two to sort this out, just throw it out there like in whatever it was, 4 months or 6 months. This is the way it's going to be. And then then we don't even know who their person is and whether it's the same same provider we're working with. It's put us in a mess with very little to no time to plan anything. I think it's really appropriate to send them the letter, letting them know that the predicament that it's putting up not only probably the city of Nisswa, but other communities in as well. So I certainly support it myself. Council?
I was going to make a motion that we, the letter send the letter to the county as presented by the city administrator for their response.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Jacobson. Any discussion about that letter?
Can we ask,
The motion?
can you talk to Mr. Poole and see, hopefully when you get it to him, we can get an answer back before the next council meeting? Is there a way we can ask that? Because, we're setting budgets, preliminaries and everything else. If we're going to have to shovel or, carry the whole load the least they could do is let us know that ahead of time. They didn't let us know anything else ahead of time.
I'll certainly ask.
It's a $35,000 difference.
Right. Right.
It's the difference between the city paying $70,000 and the city paying $35,000. And in a sense, we're hanging out there waiting for them to make a decision that's basically after or so far into the budgeting time that makes it very difficult.
I would anticipate that they will have a meeting between now and before our next meeting. So I will hope that is able to get on the agenda, but I will find out and I will let you know, just so you know when it's going to be reviewed by the county board.
Okay. So you made a motion, John?
Yep.
There was a second?
Yep.
Yeah.
Second by Don. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Old business, F1, community survey regarding council meeting schedule.
So I provided an updated survey response list to the council so you could see the feedback received. I also spoke to Mr. Jenkins today. He was unable to attend tonight, but he did fax me his list of signatures that he has received thus far. He's received 6 signatures from Nisswa residents and 11 signatures from Nisswa business owners. So I don't know if they are reflected on the survey results. My thought was I could send letters to these individuals and ask them to complete the survey if they haven't, so we have one place with all the information. But that's the update I have. I also did follow up with Tom and Mark about their availability on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, and they are both available. We talked about that as the alternative. So they are available to attend meetings if that is something the council wants to look at more, or I can send the letter like I mentioned. We can
Yeah.
give it more time, whatever you'd like.
Well, my take is I think we, as a council, can make a decision. Until we, as a city, have a better way of reaching out to the citizens, it's hard. I mean, when something like this, comes up and you look to reach out to we try to reach out to the citizens, and you get 16 replies or whatever it is out of 2,000, or how many, we have 1,400 voters, something like, somewhere, I mean, in that range. We're obviously not connecting well with the citizens in general. So I think, to me, this seems like a very reasonable request. If it makes it easier for anybody, it seems like it would be a smart thing to do. So myself, I'm in favor of making the change. I don't really see that it impacts anything other than we move to a different night. And that's my take. Council?
Well, like you say, there's not many people here that have responded to either our survey or to Mr. Jenkins. And we don't know that they're not the one and the same people. So we could be counting the same people all over again. And people are going to have to, I mean, with the website now able to give you updates whenever something new is posted to anything, you get the email or the text or whatever it might be that you choose to take. It's never been easier for people to stay in touch, and they have to take some of that responsibility upon themselves to stay in touch. I don't have a problem with going to Tuesday. It makes no difference to me. And the week of the month is, I think the third week of the month worked best for everybody. So I would leave it that week. And again, I don't have any problem what day they want to pick, what day we're going to meet. I can certainly, whatever makes it easiest for the people that can get here, that want to be here, works for me. But that being said, do we change now? Or do we leave it the same? So.
Well, the results of the survey are.
Keep it the same.
Keep it the same for the most part.
But.
And it's 17 of, it's 1% of the population of Nisswa that responded.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard
But
to judge.
Thinking of Mr. Jenkins' survey, I would guess that it's not the same. They're probably for a different day than Wednesday or the current day. So I would say it's pretty good opportunity to say, okay, we got 2% maybe of the population. I don't know how we get the question out to everybody and get them to respond.
Personally, I think it's very simple. Very, very simple. It's, does it affect any other meetings during the month? Do people have time to get their things in to Jenny from other committees? That's one. The other is, is there any reason that the council can't meet on Tuesday night? And if those two are basically no, then I think it's a wise decision to make meetings more available. There hasn't been anything been brought up to why Tuesday is not a good night because of bowling or football or anything. But there is a request to move it to another night for some people.
Right.
And so, so to me, it seems like a very, very simple thing. And I think the council has, certainly has the authority to make that change without having to have a full vote of the community. I mean, if it was a big split or there was a major reason why a Tuesday night was a bad night, that would be a game changer for me. But the fact that Tuesday night is probably a less busy night than Wednesday nights, I think it's something we should move forward with and do.
Well, I tend to worry a little bit. We only have 17 people apparently who have signed up and said, answered the questionnaire, and half of them have never attended, are not going to attend. So you're looking at maybe about 8 people that have various times that they could come. I worry a little bit about a small sample. Not that we can't meet on Tuesday. I could meet on Tuesday. That's not the problem. But I think we should have a little more input from the citizens if they really think that we should. And I don't see amount of input on the survey right now that would push me over to changing the date. I'd just like to see a better response. 30, 40 people give me their ideas, and maybe I'd look at it a little differently. But I could do it on Tuesday too, not a problem. But I don't want to do it knee jerk just because it was brought up at one time.
I agree with everything Don said, and I don't have a problem with Tuesday either. It's just, if we have a meeting on Tuesday night, I think we're gonna have the same number of people attending that we do on Wednesday night. So it's
But as a city and as a council, if we can offer something that potentially makes it easier for people, I think that is something we should strongly look at. And the thought, I've heard all 3 of you say you're not against it, then to me, it sounds like we should move forward.
Well, no, not against it at all, but this survey cancels out that one, they cancel each other out pretty much.
But
The same group of people here are saying that, this people on the regular survey are saying exactly what they're saying. They want it on Wednesday. These folks would like to see it on the 3rd Tuesday. And to Don's point, even though none of us are opposed to it, what happens when that group then of 9 or 10 or 12 or 14 come forward and say, well, why can't we have it back on Wednesday? So it would be nice for us to be able to say, look, we asked this question, we put it out, it was brought to us. We agreed to look into it. We put a survey out. We're asking people to please let us know what you think. No one's responding per se, except a handful on each side. So it would be nice to say, look, 100 people responded and they all want it on Tuesday night. So, okay. Then you take that power of 3 thing that goes on and you figure there's probably more out there on both sides, but still, at least they took the time to respond. And then to your point, yep, that's what you want. That's what we'll do. Or we change it and may have to change it back in the future, but.
Well, and that could be fine. That could be fine. I mean, if a group came in and they said, oh my gosh, this is just, there's this great big thing that Tuesday nights, that's a big deal. Then, the council can revisit it and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, to me, it feels like there is resistance to a request, and I think we need to move this forward. As a council, it's our job to move things forward. If you don't want it, then let's have a motion and a vote that we leave it as it is. But let's get it off the agenda.
Looking at everybody's Parks and Rec is third, second, first. So typically, everything happens that first week of the month. So there's no way that the third Tuesday would interfere with anything. If it happened to, for some reason, the first time you did it, it'll just be a one-time anomaly, but it doesn't look like it does. So.
I think it's going to be hard to prove a negative if you change the date. How do you know if more people will come or less people will come? I think we're going to end up about the same percentages as the survey that we've already got personally.
So make a motion, somebody. Let's move
Well,
forward.
I'll move that we keep the date the way it is right now.
Is there a second?
How would you feel that feeling? I'll second it.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's that big of a difference. And we could say it either way, big of a difference either way.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Wrong move, Mike.
No, I think we should wait until we get Gary here and we have Mr. Jenkins come and talk to us, and that gives us another chance to get it out there. If we're going to do what the people want us to do, then like giving it one more month isn't going to matter.
That's fine.
I mean, if we can just leave it on there, if it's okay with the mayor, we can just leave it on the old business and try it one more time.
Oh, it's whatever you guys do is fine with me. I mean, I have my, we all have our thoughts about it, and, I think it does reflect. I will say, I do believe it reflects on the ability of the council to make decisions and be able to move forward and be productive. Item F2, American Tower First Amendment Site to Lease Agreements. First Amendment to Site Lease Agreement is tabled until September. And just out of curiosity, why is it tabled till September?
Certainly. So Councilmember Jacobson and I went through the First Amendment and made a handful of notes, and I provided that to our city attorney. And so now we're working through those specifics to get it into a form, bring back to the council, I think, before we get it to American Tower. I think we're close to that.
Good cover by Jenny Mayer, because she and Don did their homework, and I just haven't gotten to it. So that's the real story behind that. We'll be ready in September.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so upfront. That's what it is. It's better than saying you had some great big case you just couldn't get.
You could have just rolled with the compliment you got earlier.
That's right. Item F3, City Council Liaison Structure. What, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Why have we not moved on this in the last few months?
If I can speak to the next three.
Okay.
So after, and meetings are blurring in my mind, I guess maybe it was after the last council meeting, council agreed to schedule a handful of workshops and to get into these details. So the workshops are really for the liaison structure, the golf cart ordinance, and then the council code of conduct policy. Based on urgency, I picked the recycling topic to talk about first. And it's just difficult to get a lot of meetings going in the summertime with everybody's schedules. So I picked that one first. And
that isn't important.
we'll tackle the rest here and get them now, hopefully, as schedules start to lighten up a little bit.
Okay, awesome. One comment that I have about the golf cart ordinance is just as a vision for what that would look like. It would be nice if we could get it to a single page. Because it's going to be something like in other communities, police officers carry it with them and they hand it out to people and it's a single page. And they say, here's our golf cart ordinance, if they have to talk with somebody about it. So to have something that's numerous pages and is semi like a book may not be but we'll be talking about that more as we go along.
Certainly, yes. That'll really play into if we want to ask the county to allow golf carts on county roads within the city. Because if we do, they have their requirements where we have to add. So that adds to the length, but so you know that.
But the other, I mean, I just know from having investigated, this other community has county roads in their community and it's one page. Very, very straightforward.
I think that's a summary of the ordinance.
Well, it is the handout that the city has for its citizens to say, here's what you got to follow. Okay. Council reports, mayor's report. I don't really have anything this month. It's just been a busy month, and to be honest, I haven't been really contacted by many citizens this month, and nor do I really have anything too much to say, other than I guess as a side note, Councilman Ryan and I will be getting together sometime here soon to do city administrator's review, and I believe everybody has their information in, and so that'll be happening. Other than that, that's all I have. John?
I was going to ask about the review, so, okay, you answered my question.
Nothing.
John?
Nope.
Just Gull Lake Trails, until they hear if they've got funding, they're not meeting.
Sure. Okay.
Just an FYI.
Very good. We have our upcoming meeting dates, and would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.